But I remember exactly that moment, that situation. I was at school and the teacher was sharing with us some statistics about the French population. And one of the figure triggered me. She was basically saying us that over 70% of people from low socioeconomic status will remain in the same social class. So I was part of the 70%, and I was very much triggered. And I remember raising my hand and saying, no, I disagree with your figure. This is not going to happen. And she said, well, this is just the statistics, Nadine. This is not my interpretation. And why it was a defining moment, because I always grew up with the idea that you can be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do if you're ready to work for it. And that's very much the immigrant as well background, and this working hard and hustle.
Breaking the cycle, the generational cycle, so to speak.
100%.
Yeah. Welcome to a very special episode of Impact Talk with Nadine Zidani. I am your host, Parnian Farnam, a writer, a corporate social responsibility expert, and an occasional film producer. And you heard that right. I am your host, but please don't go away or skip, because Nadine is actually our very impressive guest on this special episode. Nadine Zidani is a sustainability expert and the CEO and founder of Mina Impact, as well as the original and the incomparable host of Impact Talk with Nadine Zidani. Nadine, welcome to your own podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How do you feel?
I feel excited and very curious, actually, to be the guest. I wanna feel the experience.
Okay, that's great. For me, honestly, it feels both exhilarating and terrifying to be sitting in your position right now. So I do wonder, how do you feel to be on the other side as the guest?
Well, it's the first time for a video podcast. And I feel it's the right time. I created this platform to share stories of individuals making a positive impact in the Arab world. And it's something that is very, close to my heart, because I really wanted to give them the opportunity to amplify their voices. And something I realized that the more good you do, the quieter you tend to be about it. So I really love searching for the change makers, individuals, business leaders, entrepreneurs, activists that are doing an amazing job, and give them the opportunity to come on Impact Talk. So being a guest now is, I don't know, I feel like an adventure.
I mean, you're definitely an inspiring character. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on the show.
Thank you.
Which actually brings me to this question. I mean, you did mention entrepreneurs, change makers. Is that how you choose the guests? Because you've been doing this podcast for a very long time. Is there something specific that interests you or draws you in about these people? How do you go about choosing your guests?
Honestly, I follow my intuition.
That's incredible.
I don't have a plan. Anyone that inspires me for the work they do, whether it is on social impact or environmental impact, it can be an entrepreneur, it can be very different people. Anytime I'm inspired, and most of them I met them for my work, and I feel like this is an amazing guest for Impact Talk. And then I go to them and invite them.
So you look for that visceral connection with someone.
Yeah.
That's actually really
because
interesting.
They inspire me first. I feel very inspired by the work they do. And I'm like, I want to, as I said, amplify their voices.
So you go with your intuition and inspiration. I'm wondering what inspired you in the first place to actually start your career anew. You transitioned from a corporate career to becoming a sustainability expert. What was that moment, that spark of inspiration for you?
It has been a very long journey. So I think one of the defining moments in this journey was the COVID-19 pandemic, because back in 2020, I lost my job. I was working in the corporate world for over a decade in audit and risk management. And suddenly, because of the pandemic, I lost my job. And that moment was actually a very triggering moment in my sustainability journey, because my first reaction was, let me take a break. It's not the moment to search for a new job. I really need to unpack, those years of, working in the corporate world and honestly being not very fulfilled by my jobs.
So you didn't start making sourdough bread like most of the people did during COVID-19.
No.
You actually had a moment of, reflection, so to
Yeah.
speak. That's lovely. That's good.
I took a sabbatical. I was like, let me give myself 1 year of, reflecting on, thinking about what I want to do next. It was not a very fun sabbatical, as you can imagine. We couldn't travel. I was back in Paris at that time. So the only fun part of my day was going to the grocery,
With a
store,
mask and everything.
with a mask, or going for a walk, in the park where I was living. So a very, very simple kind of life and sabbatical, not very exciting, but very insightful, because I could really go deep, and do my inner work and really reflect and take ownership and responsibility for my life, and not being anymore in this, position of I'm frustrated. Why, my job, go that way? Like more like what's going on? Why my life led me to this situation right now?
Why did I end up being unsatisfied?
Exactly. And really go a little bit deep and think about, what are the reasons and triggers?
So your transition was not just a professional one, but it was also a very personal one. Do you think that in order for us to make these sort of changes in our careers, we really need to reflect inwards as well? I mean, does it always have to be personal? Do they have to align?
We are not different people at the end of the day. There is no my professional self and my personal, at we are one. And the decision we take, the work we do, has a huge impact on our personal lives. So for me, it's at the end of the day, it's a personal journey. It's first and foremost a personal journey. It's me knowing myself and thinking about, okay, so what led me to this situation right now? Was there, a lack of purpose? Why, I just kept going for like almost 13 years and working very hard, honestly, to climb the corporate ladder, to finally sit and say, like, I just don't like what I was doing and I was not making an impact. So I think they're all intertwined, and we cannot think about, personal or professional. That's one of the first things. And I think, again, taking responsibility, that was a huge thing for me, because we tend easily to complain, on, such situation, or I can play the victim, of...
Yeah, especially during COVID, everyone was pointing fingers at one another. Oh, you did this. I shouldn't have been doing this. I mean, there were so many couples who broke up, so many people who were mad at their bosses, and, forget about world politics, obviously. But it's interesting that you see the two of them as one and the same, because a lot of people always tell you, oh, it's just a job. You don't have to take it seriously. There is nothing personal about what you're doing at work. But since you touched upon, your personal life a little bit, mentioning living in Paris for a while, working in the corporate environment for 13 years. Can you tell me a little bit about your personal background? Do you feel comfortable sharing? Where do you originally come from? We are in the UAE right now. So how did you end up in Dubai? Why did you choose the UAE? And of course, to what extent do you think this personal journey that's very unique to yours contributes to the work that you do today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. How much time do we have? Because that's going to be a long story.
It's your podcast. I'm just a host.
When I think about my background, and I think that's what most people, don't know about me, two words come to my mind: immigrants and underdog.
Oh, wow.
So I'm French Moroccan, born and raised in France with Moroccan roots, and I come from a humble background. And I want to share with you an anecdote. When I was young, I think I was 12 or 14 years old. I don't really remember. But I remember exactly that moment, that situation. I was at school, and the teacher was sharing with us some statistics about the French population. And one of the figure triggered me. She was basically saying us that over 70% of people from low socioeconomic status will remain in the same social class. So I was part of the 70%. And I was very much triggered. And I remember raising my hand and saying, no, 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 I disagree with your figure. This is not going to happen. And she said, well, this is just the statistics, Nadine. This is not my, my interpretation. And why it was a defining moment, because I always grew up with the idea that you can be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do if you're ready to work for it. And that's very much the immigrant as well background, and this working hard and hustle,
breaking the cycle, the generational cycle, so to speak.
100%. Yeah, and
it's an immigrant work ethos that I think a lot of times in Western nations they completely disregard. They think we like to stay where we are comfortably. We don't have the same values as they do, so to speak.
Yeah.
So what else did you tell to that teacher? I'm curious. I mean, I would love to know if you're, in touch, or if you ever go back to that school and tell her, guess what? This is who I am now. Maybe she should be a guest on the show one time and see how she feels about everything now.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it's funny that to date, I'm still remembering this moment.
And how it was a formative memory for you.
Exactly, and how it shaped a little bit as well your personality, your determination. And you're like, no, this is not going to happen to me. So a bit more about my background. I'm a computer science engineer, and I worked for almost 10 years in Europe, in the financial sector, in consulting. And then one day I had the opportunity to move to the UAE. So it was always one of my dreams, I would say, to live abroad, to have this opportunity to live, an expat life. But I was not, focused on a specific, country in the world. I love traveling. I'm someone who really, really loves traveling, loves discovering new culture, new communities and living, like the local communities. So when the opportunity came to me, I was like, well, amazing. I've never been to the Middle East. Why not? And I remember back in 2018, moving from Paris to the UAE. And I've never been before to the UAE or any country in the Middle East. So basically not really knowing what to expect. With my 2 suitcases and coming, for my new job. Something as well that showed me how unprepared I was for this move is I came for adventure, new job, new responsibility. But I completely underestimated my connection to the region because, as I said, I'm French Moroccan. So we come from the Middle East, North Africa region, and we have a connection, obviously, to the Middle East and to the Arab, population. So I came, and another anecdote about my name. So my name is Nadine, and it's not very common in North Africa. So all my life, whenever I was saying I'm Moroccan, people are like, no, you can't be Moroccan. Your name is Nadine. So I always found myself, justifying my identity.
Of course.
And when I moved to the Middle East, well, little I knew that Nadine is a very common name in the Middle East. So whenever I was introducing myself and saying my name, people are like, oh, Nadine, kifek Nadine. And they automatically start talking to me in Arabic. And I was like, oh my God, but I was not expecting that. Again, so unprepared to...
Did it feel validating to an extent? Or
course,
you felt seen for the first time?
Of course. You create a connection with people and a deep sense of belonging as well.
Of course. That sense of belonging in a community is...
It's everything.
So empowering, honestly.
Yeah, it is. So... So yeah, this is how I came to the UAE. And as I said, so I worked 2 years here. And then, because of the pandemic, I decided to move back to Paris for my 1-year sabbatical, exciting sabbatical. And when I finally, after 1 year, decided I want to work in sustainable development. I want to support companies in their sustainability journey. And I want them to really have a purpose, something that I was lacking in my, professional career. And I want to support them in this journey. but I want to do it in the Arab world and come back to the MENA region. And this is how I decided to move back to the UAE. And I think for two main reasons. One of them is entrepreneurship. It's an amazing place for entrepreneurs. I've never wanted to become an entrepreneur.
It seems terrifying to me, honestly.
Me too.
I find it incredibly brave for people to just start something on their own with just some ambition and idea. It's remarkable, and it's something that I personally don't think I have. So hats off to all of you.
Thank you.
More power to you.
I had exactly the same feeling when I was living in France. I was like, I will never be an entrepreneur. This is way too risky. I don't have the personality for that. It's never gonna happen. And then I found myself.
You know why you thought that? It was because that teacher told you that you're gonna always be that statistic. You're never gonna break out of that cycle.
Maybe.
She will be in this podcast one day. we
need to find her. The thing is, what changed my mind is living in the UAE. It's an amazing land for entrepreneurs. Obviously. Amazing. Like, I've saw people doing so many ventures and, starting a company and failing and start another one. And it's okay. Like, just keep going. So that gave me actually the courage to be like, okay, let me do it my own way. Let me give it a shot and let me move back, because now I know why I'm coming to the UAE. I'm not coming randomly for a job. I'm coming because I have a connection to the region and I want to give back and make an impact in the Arab world. So that completely shifted my perspective.
That's really nice. It almost feels like it became full circle. Not only you connected with your roots personally, in the sense that your identity was seen for the very first time. You didn't have to justify who you are. Yeah. But at the same time, you found that purpose. And I like that you say you wanted to give back to the community. That's a very beautiful way to put it, because a lot of times people come to, entrepreneurship with the need to take from the community. So yes. What you're trying to do is give back, which I think is what inspires a lot of your work. We will talk about your work a little bit in a bit, but so far, we've mentioned that you are the CEO and founder of Mina Impact. We're on a podcast called Impact Talk. The word impact is something that comes in conversations with you a lot. And considering the fact that you've mentioned community, inspiration, change, I'm wondering, how do you define impact? Why is it that this is a key word for you? How do you translate it into the everyday? Is impact something that all of us can have in our lives? Is it something that we can all be driven by? Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, I think I'm obsessed with impact. Impact Talk, Mina Impact. I think it's quite obvious.
We need a third one. You need a third venture.
I'll find it. Don't worry.
We need a third venture.
I'll find it. Why I'm obsessed? Because I always felt I was not making an impact with my job. And it's very interesting. I remember, even waking up in the morning and feeling like I want to make an impact. I can do more. Why I'm not using my full potential, and energy to do more. And that was a big frustration, throughout my professional career. So my definition to your question, my definition of impact, for me, impact refers to the positive change that our actions create on the society, the environment, or the economy. And I always say, any action, any decision we take has an impact, we want it or not. And it's up to us to make it a positive or a negative impact. And it's somehow taking the responsibility of our impact and bringing more consciousness to what we do and to the impact we have.
Sense of awareness to know exactly the next step.
Exactly. So I can give you an example, a very concrete example for people to understand. Let's take, you're in a company, you work in procurement, and you've been tasked to select a supplier. Usually, you're going to have a budget to respect and most probably a list of requirements from the business, like asking you technically what we expect from the supplier. Now, if we add to it the impact element, you can think about selecting a local supplier. So you can have an impact on the local economy and support eventually entrepreneurs. Another dimension is selecting women-owned or minority-owned businesses. And that way you support diversity and inclusion and make a social impact. And the third option would be to select a supplier that has clear commitments toward net zero and measure its emissions and is very transparent about the action they take to lower their environmental impact. And that's going to have as well an impact on your own emissions and climate action.
Just a curious question. How many of the companies out there do you think are actually doing this math in their heads these days? That they're paying attention to checking these boxes, that I'm supporting local initiatives, that I'm supporting, diverse, marginalized communities, that I'm supporting sustainable initiatives? Off the top of your head or your gut instinct, to what extent do you think it has become an important imperative for these procurement companies?
It's becoming important, definitely. There is a lot of conversation around ESG, environmental social governance, and one of the aspects is the supply chain and procurement. So a lot of them, and I'm hearing actually from my own clients or network that, we got selected because, they liked, our commitment to the environment, our social impact, and actually we went, on top of the list of the suppliers. So I'm hearing more and more of those stories. So that gives me confidence that we're going in the right direction. But that shows you how sometimes we overcomplicate, I would say, the conversation around sustainability. If I'm just giving you this example and telling you you can make an impact, actually, it's not that, overwhelming as you think. Well, that changes everything.
I think there are two groups of people. Either they think sustainability is just, like a key trendy term that they have to somehow work into a conversation or into a business. So they're very cynical about it. Or a group that they think, oh my God, it's so complicated. We have to leave it to the key governments and the largest corporations in the world. But you're right. We can all make that change. We can all have a positive impact if we just look at the simplest different solutions out there. It's just a matter of choosing one over the other. And sometimes honestly, it takes a semi-second to become aware of the fact that one choice is going to have a positive impact, the other one, not so much. So basically, what you described to us is a glimpse into the work that you do. It's the work that you do with your team at Mina Impact. So can you tell us a little bit more about the idea of Mina Impact? How did you come about it? How did the idea come to fruition? And to what extent does it align with your mission and values as well? I mean, I think anyone who's been listening so far would see that they're perfectly aligned. But just tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. It has been a journey because I really took the time to listen and understand my local stakeholders. And understand especially the issues they are facing to start their own sustainability journey, as you mentioned. And some of the issues that I realized that we are facing are a skills gap. So whenever I was having conversations, I realized that even the definition of sustainability and what it means for a business is not understood. So there was a need actually for to support them, with the skills and tools to start their journey. Another issue is the adoption of international impact sustainability standards. So a lot is going on in this field. A lot exists as well, but I see a slow adoption of those standards that could actually help them shape their sustainability strategy and build credibility as well with all their stakeholders.
The accountability that you said, that's something that they need to also work on. I mean, it's not only taking stock of what you've been doing, but also be accountable to your stakeholders that this is what we've been doing. Yeah. This is what we hope to be accomplishing in the future.
Exactly, and be transparent about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Another one that surprised me is data. So whenever I was finding an interesting report on, related to sustainable development and especially to the business, the sample did not include the Middle East. So I was having like amazing reports, but data from the US or Europe. Although a lot is happening in the region, I'm not saying that it's not the case, but I couldn't find a centralized place where I could find, those insightful reports that could help us actually to take decisions and move forward. So Mina Impact was born, from just looking at what's going on, in the markets, and there was a need for a holistic approach, that one-stop shop in a way solution that could support organizations in their sustainability journey and provide them all the resources they need to make an impact.
So what would be those resources, for example? Would they need to be doing their own research? Do they need to have their teams trained? Are there specific, for example, academic work that is required? Is there knowledge building, capacity building that's required for those companies? Are these the sort of services that are offered by your team?
Absolutely. So some of the services we offer is obviously consulting, advising them on, how to start this journey, how to use the international standards, as I mentioned. We as well decided to set up an academy and provide sustainability online courses, workshops, as you mentioned. And lastly, a think tank. So again, how can I, from my network, collect, those very insightful reports that exist from the region, and as well produce our own, reports.
So you're some sort of a mediator, honestly, between the entrepreneurs, the businesses, and the larger sustainability landscape, so to speak. So you're trying to connect the two of them, bridging the gap between what's happening already and what could potentially be the future.
Yeah, I love what you said about connecting, because that's the huge part of the work we do, and that you don't really see, because we are part of an ecosystem, and we've been spending, a couple of years now understanding how things are going on, understanding our stakeholders and building connections. And that create a lot of value for all the organizations and people who, collaborate with us, because suddenly we can connect them and plug them to this local impact ecosystem that's going to support them in all the things we do. So when you think about sustainable development and how we can achieve, the 17 sustainable development goals, partnership is very important. There is nothing that you can do on your own. There is someone having a solution of something, and then you can, start working together and, amplify your impact. So being an ecosystem, I would say, builder, I was not expecting to do that, honestly, but there is a gap. There is clearly a gap. Where do I go when I'm a sustainability, practitioner, an organization that needs, help and support? Where do I go?
That's true, honestly. I think there is that gap, but I think it comes to you very naturally. You have created an ecosystem. I mean, it's a living organism. At the end of the day, all of our communities are living organisms. We do need one another. It's just that either we don't know where to go and, knock on the door, or maybe there is a sense of shyness or a lack of awareness, or in a lot of times, the knowledge is just simply not there that I need to speak to this person now. And no, I have seen you work. You're very natural in being able to bridge this gap and connect people. But in your answer, what really comes out is the emphasis on the local stakeholders. So you are based in the UAE now. The company is based in the UAE, but you have your eye to the entire MENA region. So I was wondering, where do you see the UAE's role evolving in the sustainability landscape, especially in the global south? They have been doing so much. So I'm wondering, where do you see this going? And to what extent do you see yourself and MENA Impact as a part of that growth? Or what do you envision for your future, so to speak?
I mean, as you said, the UAE has been taking massive steps towards sustainability, and it's very clear especially the last 3 years. It's part of the vision, it's part of the commitments, and now we are seeing more and more initiatives and projects, going on, and I believe it's going to completely reshape the country going forwards and even our lifestyles.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm sure of that. I mean,
I really don't want to see plastic bottles ever again. I really don't want to.
I mean, it happened now, so
it's a pet peeve of mine. I know it's out of my hands, but I really hope that I don't see them around that much. But please continue.
So it's in a very, very good position. And especially when you think that the UAE is part of the Global South. The Global South, but does not really look like a Global South country, if I'm being blunt a bit. So, and that makes the country itself in a very, very interesting and strategic position when it comes to sustainable development. And we have seen that at COP28. So at COP28, we unified the Global South around them and really built bridges, between different, regions and countries. And they were very, very successful at that. And I see them, continuing, the momentum in the years to come. So when it comes to MENA Impact, I always say that, we're in a very strategic position in the region. As I said, my work is about the Middle East, North Africa. So I'm not going to expand. I'm not going to look at other regions.
It is a large region full of potential to begin with.
It's huge, but you can't imagine the number of people who told me like, you shouldn't name your company Mina Impact.
Oh.
You're restraining yourself.
Was that same teacher who said that? Bless that teacher. We have to find her now, honestly. I'm hoping that one of your classmates listens to this podcast and tells you the details of where we can find her today. But that's very interesting for me to hear that people thought that this would be limiting for you, because there is so much potential in this region, especially the diversity of people who exist here.
Yeah.
Create a very good opportunity.
And even more being based in the UAE, this is what I explain to all my partners, especially outside of the region, that we are very strategically placed in the region, and we can test, we can learn, and then, scale and expand, within the region. So the UAE for that is really amazing.
You mentioned what you saw at COP28 and that it was a, enlightening experience. The UAE definitely played a role as a facilitator. So I think we can consider that one success story. Are there success stories from your own journey that you could share? A story or an anecdote, a moment where you thought, that's it. I'm on the right path. I finally figured it out. I'm doing fine. That teacher was wrong.
Very good question. So I have two stories in mind. A recent one. We worked with a UAE climate tech startup, supporting them to become B Corp certified company. So for some background, so B Corp is a global movement using business as a force for good. And their mission is to transform the global economy into a more fair, equitable, and regenerative system. So B Corps or B corporations are businesses that meet high standards of environmental and social impact, accountability, and transparency. So this climate tech startup achieving, this recognized status of B Corp is a huge, huge achievement. It has been a 1-year project. And I still remember, when the founder contacted me a year ago and saying like, okay, I want to do it. I was a bit surprised because it's an early stage startup. We are doing many things. We are very busy building the business, but she was really convinced that embedding impact from the beginning in the company while she building the team, while she's building the business, made a lot of sense and gonna set her up for success in the long term. And I really loved that. And we were super successful. Usually this type of project takes 2 years. We did it in 1 year. It has been an amazing success story. I'm very proud of them. We just got certified back in May, a month ago. Another thing about, to give as well a bit of context around this project, we have today in the world over 8,000 B Corp certified companies. So it's a very small community. And we have 23 in the MENA region and 9 in the UAE.
That's amazing.
So we are at Mina Impact very passionate about the ethos and mission of B Corp, and we are supporting the growth of the movement in the region. So it's a very, very exciting journey, honestly, and we're super happy to have now this success story as well to share.
Do you by any chance know how many were B Corp certified, let's say 2-3 years ago? I wanted to know the growth.
So back in 2020, we had one.
Only one?
One in the whole region.
Wow. Which country, if I may ask?
UAE.
There was just one in the UAE.
One in the
UAE, and now there are 9 in the UAE.
9 in the UAE. So the UAE has the highest number of B Corps.
That's very impressive. That's wonderful. Okay.
It is.
Interesting. Can you actually tell me a bit more about your involvement with B Corp as well? Because I know that you are an ambassador of the movement. So what does that entail actually?
So I'm a B leader. We are B leaders. So it means that obviously we believe in the mission of the movement, and we support, its growth in the region or where we live. And we are as well experts in supporting organizations to become certified, because we've been working with them and trained by the teams. B Corp has been as well a defining moment in my personal journey, because when I was learning back in my sabbatical, my very fun sabbatical, I was learning about...
You were still in Paris. I mean, you're making it seem like it was miserable. It was still better than most.
Keep in mind that we have very small apartments in Paris.
That's true. That's fair.
So in my 30 square meters, apartments, stuck all day. So just for...
That's fair. That's
for more context.
That's fair.
So when I was learning about sustainability and the role of the business, and I discovered, one chapter in one of the courses I was doing was about B Corp. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Let me do research. And I spent the whole night searching, because I was like, oh my God, we have really companies using business as a force for good. So I was really, really impressed as well by the companies and how different they look from, traditional businesses. And that gives me like a lot of motivation of... One of the things that I immediately actually thought when I discovered this movement was, if I was 20 years ago, I would work for a B Corp.
Oh,
if I was younger, oh my God, I would have worked for a purpose-led business. It would have changed my life.
So that's another reason why you amplify these companies, because hopefully the next generation knows that there are businesses out there that care about the environment.
And even more in the MENA region, because more than 50% of the population are youth, less than 30 years old. So we need to give them hope that there is another way of doing business, that you can do good and, be part of an amazing organization and have a purpose, a reason to wake up in the morning. That's amazing.
You can make an impact.
And you can make an impact 100% for the work you do. So that gives me another, motivation, purpose to push, the movement in the region. We just built a partnership with a social enterprise called TAP. And the mission of TAP is to provide youth in Palestine with remote job opportunities abroad. Amazing social enterprise that I met a couple of months ago, doing an amazing work with youth in Palestine and now in Jordan as well. So I was blown away by the co-founders and the work they do. So the time I was in a position to hire and to build my team at Mina Impact, I directly contacted them and I hired all my team from their pool of talents. And that made a lot of sense as well as, in the mission and the way we do business as well at Mina Impact. And based on this experience, I was like, what else can I do? How can we, partner and do a bit more together? Because there is a limit to the number of people I could hire. And one thing that came immediately to my mind was sustainability skills. So we are experts in sustainability, and we can help them to equip those talents with sustainability skills that are on demand and that can help them to increase their chances to land a job remotely. So we were like, this is amazing. Let's partner now, and we are as we speak, launching a program that's
incredible.
Yeah, that's gonna support them in building those skills. And it's very important because anything we do, any work you do, some of them will be in marketing, in sales. Doesn't really matter. You need to know the basics of sustainability, and we hope that it's gonna help them to even get a job and work for purpose-led businesses.
You need to have the skills to explain this to a manager who has 2 minutes time, and convince him that this is something your company needs as a competitive advantage. You cannot use big words that are vague or abstract. You need to be able to explain it to them in short, simple terms and convince them right away. Why does it matter? But that's incredible. And I think people who are listening should know that there is an episode of Impact Talk with Nadine Zidani that focuses on TAP. They should definitely go back. When they get tired of my voice, they can go back and listen to that inspiring episode. It's one of my favorites. I'm glad to hear that. I'm looking forward to the launch of, is it going to be sort of an academy based relationship? I mean, I don't want to take too much of it away if it's going to be an interesting launch.
No, I'm very happy to share more about that. It's going to be, so it's a partnership between our two companies, and we're going to launch a program. So we're going to start by, one cohort, learn from it, and then, launch other, cohorts. And the whole, it's not only about ticking the box of we've done a course or we've done a masterclass. Oh, okay, we tick the box. We have a certain number of people who went through, the program. We are very ambitious because we want to measure the impact it has on, their ability to find a job. So that's why we need to learn and go a little bit slowly, because part of the program, we want to join our networks. So we want to open our network in the Middle East. And we have as well Mina Impact partners back in Europe. And we are like, we are super happy to support. So how can we start opening, our networks, connecting and increasing the chances for those amazing talents to find a job?
Rewriting business, basically. I mean, you're breaking away from the traditional aspect of how businesses were done for the longest time. And you're breaking that stigma of how people thought, oh, this is just business as usual, will always remain as it is.
Just on that, I like what you said, because this is social impact. And usually a business, whenever, again, the old way of seeing impact in a business can be, like charity, can be giving back, a certain amount of money or a percentage, of the revenue.
Just philanthropy, basically.
Yeah, which is amazing, but we can do more. We can do much, much more. And especially us entrepreneurs, we don't have, for now, we're starting, this journey of building a company. We don't have the money to give. And I don't think that it's the best way to make an impact. But we have resources, we have a network, we are part of an ecosystem, and just by working together, we can really make a great impact.
And honestly, giving back that sense of pride to your employees, that we are part of an organization that is committed to these values, making a change. So when they wake up in the morning, they don't have that dread of, oh God, I'm not doing enough, or I'm just stuck in a loop. I'm just a hamster in a wheel, and there's nothing exciting happening out there. So
that's very important to me. Very, very important.
No, absolutely. I mean, based on the personal experiences that you've shared, you want that sense of fulfillment for everyone. But I'm really excited about the next chapter of both TAP and Mina Impact. I will be looking forward to that for sure. What I remember from that episode that stuck with me was that there are more female applicants than men in their cohorts. And as we have discussed so far, I mean, you're a multi-ethnic woman. You come from a diverse background. And, your anecdotes always help me with my own decisions. You always have something to offer that I didn't see before, which I'm always grateful for, obviously. You're a force to be reckoned with. So I'm wondering, as a woman, how do you think that the reality of your experiences empower you? How has this been somehow your superpower? What is it that you bring to the table that's different?
I love the word superpower.
It is. I think being a woman is a superpower.
Thank you, because this is exactly what I think. Just by being a woman, I mean, this is already a superpower that we tend to underestimate. So what I bring to the table, well, as a woman, like my feminine energy, my compassion, my intuition, like all the things that make me a woman, and we underestimate them. So I bring a whole world to the table.
A whole new world.
A whole new world, yeah, just by being. And I think especially as women, like we want to do so much. We want to, I mean, and we are doing so much. We are really doing a lot.
We're rewriting the books, so to speak. We're forcing people to learn things differently, unlearn, learn. I want to know, how is it for you? I mean, how do you use this superpower once you step into a meeting to consult a client? How do you use it to your advantage immediately?
My intuition. I think that's one of the superpower of women. I never silence my intuition. I took a lot of decisions in my work, and especially as a business owner, based on my intuition. If there is something in the situation, in the project or whatever I'm doing that does feel off, I'm gonna say it, or I'm gonna pull myself away from it. And that's something I've never done before, honestly, and because I was like, oh, something is off, but it's okay, let's keep going. And then 6 months, after, you're like, oh, but I knew it.
Yeah.
And you waste so much of your time. And that's something, because I work with
and you
women
feel like
as
you
well.
betrayed yourself a little bit
100%.
because you could hear it inside viscerally, giving you all these red flags and warnings. They're like,
Yes.
it's okay.
Yes, and that's the superpower of women. So I work with women, and whenever they come to me, my clients, and they say, I don't know, this event, I'm really not feeling it. I'm like, you're not feeling it, we're not going to do it. Let's postpone. I'm like, no, but I mean the consequences and what's going to happen. I'm like, you're not feeling it. I'm not going to deny your feelings. Let's postpone.
The reason might not be apparent to you now, but
Exactly.
2 months down the line, we would know why.
And after that, they call me and say, oh my God, I feel so relieved. Something was in my head and now I feel so relaxed. Oh, thank you. I'm like, yeah, we need to stop doing that. And we do it sometimes, women with women. We're like, no, but that's okay.
So as we talked about the intuition and your experience of working with women, do you think that in general, when it comes to sustainability or climate-related issues, women approach the topic differently? Do they have a different perspective on issues and the solutions as well? So does that mean that we should specifically try to spotlight their opinions a bit more, amplify their voices more than the general voices in the room?
Well, first of all, women are disproportionately affected by climate change.
How so? Tell us.
That's a reality, and especially in developing countries. So in developing countries, women often, work in low-paying jobs, and they are caregivers for the families, responsible for water or food, for instance. And in that context, they face a lot of climate risks, and they are exposed to a lot of, climate risks. So that's a fact. That's a scientific fact, that we are very much exposed to climate risks. So yet we are at the forefront of climate action. You see a lot of women activists, entrepreneurs, policymakers. We are very active in the climate space because I think we feel a deep sense of responsibility.
It's that intuition again. We understand that there is a crisis that is brewing.
Yes.
We notice that the doom is coming. There's something that has to be done.
Yes.
Something doesn't feel right, and we need to figure out a solution for it.
And we take action. And that's amazing. And I think what we bring to the conversation, we bring a lot. I mean, we have to be, in the conversation. It's a fact. And we bring so much to the conversation by, we can we're going to very naturally hold space for, diverse perspectives and opinions. We are not afraid of that. I think we manage stakeholders very well. And we are, peacemakers. So we're going to always find a solution and make, people feel at ease and, have this power of negotiation as well at the decision-making table. So we bring so much, and we have a unique leadership. We have amazing leadership skills. So I think we must be, in the conversation around climate. We must be part of the solutions and the decisions, because we are impacted by climate change, and because we bring something unique to the conversation.
I love the expression hold space.
Yeah.
Because I think women in particular are capable of creating a very safe environment where you have the ability to be fully yourself. You don't feel a sense of judgment. There is no rush. You're given the opportunity to express yourself. It's one of the things that you are incredible at. I mean, you have challenged me in many ways, this one opportunity being one of them. But you hold that space and allow people to be who they are. And I think that's exactly what we need right now when it comes to the climate crisis. People need to become exactly who they are. That accountability that we spoke about earlier, they need to have that sense of safety so that they can finally realize their full potentials, become aware of their weaknesses and their strengths, and then see how they can best apply themselves so that they can create that impact.
Absolutely. And women, we are excellent at doing that. I'll give you an example. I go to a lot of conferences around climate sustainability. It's fascinating because when you have on stage only men, and then suddenly you have another panel with men and women, the energy in the room shifts. Like it's complete different dynamic. Even men behave, different. So I'm always, when I love, going to those conferences, discussions, and be an observer, like really an external observer, and see, the dynamic and what's going on. Women have a very important role to play in those conversations. Very, very important role to play. By who they are, by the energy they bring to the conversation, but obviously their skills, knowledge, I don't even need to mention that. But by just who they are and being, there.
So if you had to give women in this field one advice, it would be just be yourself.
Oh, yeah. Be yourself, be authentic, we're all very different. Being a woman is not, one personality. Really be yourself, be your authentic self.
Stand in your power.
Yeah.
In your superpower. So I'm wondering, throughout this career, obviously there have been many inspirations in your life. Anecdotes from your childhood that have stayed with you. But during that sabbatical, were there movies, books, poems, something that was influential in your journey? And would you be willing to, share those with us, recommend something that you think would be very important, not only in a personal development, but also a professional career as well?
Well, many. I think I have two books in mind. One of them is called Impact. Impact Reshaping Capitalism. Yeah, I told you I'm obsessed. I loved this book because it's talking about impact investments and how, moving from taking investment decisions only on risk and return to risk, return, and impact, we can support a whole, ecosystem of entrepreneurs who are basically finding solutions to our environmental and social issues. And that is an extremely important conversation because we shouldn't expect only the government to take care of that. And this is in our subconscious what we believe. Only government, and then you have on the other side, NGOs doing, and the philanthropy in general doing a certain work. But in between, you have a huge space with entrepreneurs building ventures just to find, those solutions. And those people are very, very important, and they need capital and they need support. And this is all the book is very well articulated on how we can make that happen, how to measure the impact outcomes and all of that. It's very, very interesting. Another book is it's the second edition actually of the same book, and it's called The Future of the Responsible Company by Yvan Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia. So I'm a big fan, obviously, of Patagonia, the US clothing company, and very, very committed to environmental impact and saving the environment. I like this book because I'm fascinated by the founder, Yvan Chouinard.
I think we all are. There's something so charismatic and magnanimous. I mean, I think in a parallel universe, maybe he's a cult leader not doing so well. But in this one, my goodness.
He's an unconventional leader. That's why I like him.
But a leader nonetheless, honestly.
Of course. But again, the stereotype of a leader is someone, wearing a suit, working, in a big company. I mean, we have certain stereotypes of
looking at Excel sheets all day long.
Exactly. I mean, we have certain stereotypes, and we completely, are on the other spectrum of what we expect from a leader. And they do it consciously, because I studied a lot Patagonia. I was very, very curious about this company and what they do and the founder. It's very conscious in their culture. We don't want to do business like others do. So it makes the whole, obviously, company and story very fascinating. And in this book, they basically share the whole journey of how they are becoming a responsible business and embedding sustainability in their business and all the decisions they have taken. Again, very transparent, very open book of we did it. I mean, get inspired and do
honestly,
as well
a lot
same.
Of people have been inspired by that same business model for sure. I mean, that was the origin story for a lot of other companies.
Yeah.
So these are the two books that you would definitely recommend. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us? An anecdote, a memory that is deep in your conscious but always helps you on your low moments and days? Is there something in your personal routine that you think should be something that people need to consider once they're an entrepreneur, for example?
I mean, personal development is a huge part of my life right now. You asked me the question about personal and professional, and I think they are very, very connected. So the more I work on myself from, mental, spiritual, perspective, the more it has a positive effect on my professional life. So as an entrepreneur, you must work on yourself. This is not an option even, and that nobody told me that at the beginning. Nobody told me that going to the gym, taking care of my body, meditating was as important than, running my business and doing the tasks that I have to do on a daily basis. It's super, super important. And when it comes to lifestyle, I would say I have a very simple life, very, very simple life. Obviously, working in sustainability, I mean, you realize how consumption has, a very, very negative effect on our planet. So I don't consume like before. Fashion, an example. That
you become a conscious consumer now.
Conscious consumer, and you consume less. Because the reality, there is one message about consumption. We need to consume less. So it's not only about being conscious.
Well, was it something that I read the other day that the amount of clothing that have been manufactured around the world can clothe the next 8 generation on the planet?
Yeah.
And I don't even think we're going to have 8 more generations at this rate, but let's try to be hopeful. Lastly, before I hand over my hosting duties to you and relieve you of your spotlight as a guest, the next episode of Impact Talk or anyone in the future, is there a specific guest that you wish to have? And why would you want to have that person?
Oh, wow.
You can't choose Patagonia.
No.
We discussed them already at length. You need to give variety to our audience.
I know. I would love to invite Razan El Mubarak.
Oh.
So she's the COP28 UN climate change high-level champion and the managing director of Emirates Nature's WWF, and she's a very strong ambassador of nature-based solutions to climate change. She is a fantastic woman. You know, I was at COP28 and she was leading a roundtable discussion on access to finance for indigenous people. And she was amazing. You know, we talked about, you know, the feminine energy and just being a woman.
She has a natural presence.
She has a natural leadership and presence and being herself without forcing, without nothing. It's amazing, amazing. I'm really very inspired by this woman. I know she's a very reserved as well woman outside of her, you know, duties. I would love to have a conversation with her on
I would
Impact
love
Talk.
for you to have Her Excellency on the show, and I would just be a fly on the wall somewhere, just getting a glimpse of the behind the scenes of everything. So if you had to give one specific advice based on all of your experiences to individuals or businesses who are starting out on this sustainability journey, what would it be?
I would give them 3 pieces of advice. Number 1, it's a journey. It's a journey and it's going to take time. So especially for businesses, embedding sustainability in your business, and if you are an established business, it's going to take time. So be patient and think long term. The second advice is make it part of the strategic agenda. So anything you do around sustainability should be part of the business strategy and endorsed by the CEO and the board. Otherwise, any crisis, anything's going to happen, the first budget we're going to cut is going to be the one for sustainability. And lastly, choose wisely the companies and people you work with. And I think that's very, very important. Make sure that they have your best interests in mind and that they walk the talk. So challenge them, ask them about their impact. Ask them about, you know, what they do. Do they have a sustainability strategy? Do they do a report? How much, you know, they walk the talk? I think it's very, very important.
I think advice number 1 and 3 just apply to every aspect of life. You always have to be patient and understand that this is a journey. And the third one, you really need to know who you associate with. I mean, your company makes your character to a lot of extent. So you really need to know who are the people you're associating with.
Yeah.
Are they going to challenge you to become a host of a podcast, which will make you a better person? Are they going to, you know, introduce you to interesting people or not? No, but really, I mean, we're joking about it, but it's really true. The company that you keep, I mean, they say birds of a feather flock together. And it's the reality, honestly.
Yes.
You need to know who you keep company and who you keep close.
Even more when we talk about impact and sustainability. Otherwise,
because it's very personal and
of course
there's a lot at stake for sure.
And you know what? I have another one because that's something I've seen, you know, a lot, you know, in the work I do. If you want to hire a chief sustainability officer, a CSR manager, or just build, you know, a team internally, I would advise companies to give them the right position and means to do their jobs. Because most of the time what I see is that they report, for instance, to HR or marketing, which is not going to help them actually to, do their duties and have the right level of authority as well internally.
The same level of independence and agency.
And independence, they should be reporting to the CEO, be part of the executive team, the leadership team, and have, you know, a budget, you know, for their activities. I mean, it sounds very obvious, but believe me, most of the time, it's not the case in companies.
No, when you interact with people in the sustainability sphere, a lot of times you see them wearing the same cap as marketing, HR, sustainability, all at the same time.
Yeah.
It's almost as if they didn't think it was worth creating one position just specifically for sustainability or CSR.
It's even like we're going halfway. So we want, but we are not ready to, to...
Let's see how other companies do.
And let's see how it goes. And then, you know, in a couple of years, we'll see if we want to invest more.
If you could use one word to describe your outlook of the future, what would that be? And you're not allowed to use impactful.
Oh my God, this is a good question. I know I asked you the same question in a different,
In a parallel universe.
in a parallel universe, and I'm gonna take your answer.
Oh wow, I'm humbled. I'm honored.
Hopeful.
Why are you hopeful? I know why I was hopeful, quite honestly. I think for me, if I may, the new generation gives me so much hope. They're so audacious, they're so bold, they're not willing to compromise. And I think that's exactly what we need at a time like this. Whether it's political issues, climate issues, societal problems, they're standing their ground. And that makes me really hopeful. The way that it's moving, it gives me hope. In what sense do you feel hopeful?
Because for doing the work, I do, you have to be hopeful. You have to be positive. You have to believe that, yes, we can do business differently. Yes, we can make a positive impact. Yes, we can solve our issues. And you have to, otherwise, how can I keep going?
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's hopeful and it's faith. So I have a lot of faith on, human beings, obviously. And because I as well believe that we have everything we need to find, solutions to our problems. We have smart people, we have the means, financial means. We have everything we need. It's just a matter of making things happen. So I'm very hopeful.
That's beautiful. And I think that's just a great life lesson again as well when it comes to life in general. Just be hopeful. One step at a time, but take it with hope and have a little bit of faith that it will work out. Thank you so much for entrusting me with hosting duties. It's been really fun. And
thank you for accepting my invitation.
No, of course,
Thank you so much.
I have a hard time saying no to you.
And I want to say something because, Parnian, you've been very, very supportive of women entrepreneurs in the UAE, including myself. So with Advanced Media and all the work you've been doing,
thank you.
Honestly, it has been like very, very, very supportive. And I love that how, from working on a couple of projects, we, build this long-term relationship. And this is how I see actually business happening nowadays. And, you end up, being a host on my podcast.
I always say the energy that you give me, I will reciprocate it and then back and forth. So it's honestly, it's what I have received from you that makes me comfortable to be able to give back. So I'm proud of all of us and this network that we've created for each other. I'm hopeful of that as well, honestly, that we can together make a better future for sure. I'm sure that our audience is very grateful to be able to hear a bit more about your personal and professional life. I hope you had fun as a guest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything you would have done differently? Any regrets?
No regrets.
No, but honestly, your journey is very inspiring, and I'm sure that everyone learned something from today. And I'm so glad that you shared a few new updates to Mina Impact with us. I'm sure all of us would be looking forward to that. And then I guess until next time, when Nadine returns to her hosting duties, I have been your host, Parnian Farnam, and you have been listening to Impact Talk with Nadine Zidani. Until next time, thank you for listening.